Thanks for those that have joined. My name is Bethany. I am a product evangelist at AppVentory. And I'm also a digital transformation consultant with the Digital Transformers Group. I wear many hats. But for this webinar today, I am hosting, but leaving the majority of the conversation down to our awesome guests. So I will hand them over to introduce themselves. We've got Emily, Oliver, and Josh with us today. So if you guys could just tell me a little bit about who you are, what you do, and the types of services that you offer that mean that you are great to be here and talking about AppStacks with me today. Emily, can I start with you?
Yeah, of course. Hi, everyone. My name is Emily. I'm the Client Services Director here at TC Final Clerk. Like Beth, I actually wear many hats as well, but the main purpose of my role is to streamline the processes with the clients. So it could be onboarding clients, onboarding them to get them into the team so they can obviously start working on their bookkeeping and management accounts. Um, and I'm also part of the Digital Disruptors Group and Early Adopters Hub. Different services that we also do is we do transformations for clients as well, which is essentially looking at their whole processes, and then doing like a gap analysis report and helping them on which apps that they should choose in order to streamline their finance operations.
Awesome, thank you. Oliver?
Hi, I'm Oliver, one of the two directors at Elver e-commerce accountants. So we're a firm of chartered accountants that specialize in supporting e-commerce businesses. We do quite a lot of app implementation work specifically for e-commerce businesses, helping to bring all the e-commerce data clearly and accurately into their accounting systems, and also do some work around inventory systems as well.
Awesome. And Josh?
Yes, hello. Josh, I'm the founder of Hyphen Digital. So we're a zero exclusive consultancy focusing on app advisory, implementation, ongoing support, migration, and zero training as well.
Awesome. Thanks so much. And thank you all for being here. I'm really excited you all agreed to join, especially as you all have, you're all in the same industry, but slightly different backgrounds. And so hopefully we'll come at the conversation from a slightly different angle, which I'm really excited about. So the topic of the webinar is how to curate and monetize your app stacks. So I speak to lots of advisors that are currently in or going into the tech advisory world. And although they've got the passion and a lot of the knowledge in order to do it, a lot of the time they don't quite know where to start in terms of pricing their services and choosing which apps to work with or how to choose which apps to work with. So hopefully we'll get some awesome insights from all of you today. I'll start with the very basics, and as I am just the host rather than the expert, I would like to ask, maybe I'll start with you, Josh. If you can talk to me about what an app stack is to you, and what you feel kind of the importances of having them in the tech advisory work that you do.
Yeah, no pressure. So yeah, an AppStack is a set of connected tools that a business uses to run its operations. So everything from finance to reporting, project management, CRM, payroll, all that kind of good stuff. I guess the idea is that instead of having lots of isolated bits of software or like data silos, is you have a stack of apps that all integrate with your accounting platform. So in our case would be Xero. So the data flows really smoothly, and that way you don't get duplication of effort. You're not double handling, and more importantly, you're not relying on spreadsheets or glue to keep things together.
Yeah, I like that. Yeah, great. Yeah, great definition. So in terms of having app stacks, then, I want to get Emily's view on this because Emily, I think, is a little bit more agnostic. in her area. So I know that you, Josh, work specifically with Zero Apps, and I know that you, Oliver, work specifically with the e-commerce side of things. So you might be a little bit more pro AppStacks. So I'd like to ask Emily, in terms of having AppStacks, how important is it to actually have them as an advisor? Do you think there is a situation in which you need to choose to work as an AppStack firm or be completely agnostic and open to all of market? Or is there a benefit to having these defined stacks as an advisor?
Actually, a bit of both. So it's obviously more beneficial and more profitable for you to have a consistent app stack. Obviously, one for consistency with training the team, etc. But it doesn't mean one size kind of fits all. Obviously, we do work with different industries like manufacturing. A stock system obviously isn't going to support something else in a different industry. So it is kind of some clients where they are quite large and we do more bespoke it to them and their needs and what they're kind of looking for. And that's where we would do like an overhaul of the whole financial operations to have a look at how best we can help them streamline. But where we have a client that's come to us where they're very similar, so we have 3 manufacturing companies which are pretty much similar fields in what they do around similar turnover and their setup. So they do have the same app stack, which is perfect for us because we've basically, I suppose, cloned it across all 3 and it works very well. So yeah, it's actually quite hard to answer your question because it's a little bit of both depending on the scenario and the circumstance and what they're trying to achieve. Does that look?
I think that makes sense. Oliver, I'd love to get your point of view because I know that what you do within your firm is industry specific. So the app stacks that you work with then, whereas a firm that serves, I guess, different industries might have an app stack for each industry, similar to what Emily just said. How does it work in your firm where you tend to serve one or a couple of industries in and around e-commerce? How have you got, do you have one app stack that you work with, or have you kind of split yours into maybe different business sizes, or how do yours work, Oliver?
Yeah, so I think by virtue of niching into e-commerce, almost just by default we have a defined app stack arising from that. I think it puts us in a position where we can review sort of whole of market around that niche and always be aware of what's new within that market. We're always jumping onto beta products and things just to keep the best options available for our clients, but tend to stay fairly focused around the core app stack.
Okay. And do you mind sharing what your kind of main app stack is for your e-commerce clients?
Yeah, so the go-to would be Zero as the core, A2X to pull in the e-commerce accounting data, and then Briefcase for purchase invoice processing.
Perfect. Okay. And so with that particular app stack then, how does that help you with the services that you provide around kind of advisory when you're onboarding a new client? Are you looking at their technology? Are you kind of comparing what they have with your preferred app stack and you try and move these clients onto those apps, or kind of how does it inform your advisory process?
Yeah, so the initial conversation with a client would always be getting an initial understanding of what their current app stack is, and then really just walking them through the pros and cons of their current app stack versus what we would suggest, just depending on their circumstances. But that being said, a lot of our initial leads do come in around the app implementation as sort of the initial service, and then that leads on to a full accounting service further down the line.
Okay, so you're providing implementation as a kind of a fixed package that you're servicing clients with already.
Yeah, exactly. So we have a sort of a pricing matrix around A2X implementation in particular that will vary depending on the complexity and of the A2X implementation that they need. So we'll drill down into things like tracking category utilization, just depending on the level of analysis that they require in
Yeah.
this area, really.
Got it. Right. So I guess that's another benefit of having an app stack then, is the ability to kind of sell those services a little bit, because if you are, listing yourself as entirely agnostic and we don't have any preference, you're almost listing yourself as not having a specialism as well. So it's hard to kind of sell an implementation service without also being able to demonstrate particular products that you have this niche in. So yeah, that definitely makes sense. So in terms of the apps and the stack that you have at the moment around e-commerce, how did you kind of choose those apps? So did you say it was Zero,
Yeah, Zero,
A2X,
A2X, and Briefcase.
and Briefcase? Okay.
Yeah.
And can you just explain to the audience kind of, I'm sure everyone already knows what most of them are, but what they do and kind of how you came to choose them as your preferred apps in your app stack and how they suit your clients really well?
Yeah, okay. So Zero is sort of the core accounting software. Two main reasons we choose to use Zero for all our clients. One being that it's very user friendly, so it's easy for clients to pick up how to use Zero, certainly compared to other client accounting software. And secondly, it has a very extensive app marketplace, so there are a lot more options as to what you can integrate with Zero compared to alternative accounting platforms. So that were the two main reasons as to why we chose to niche in on Zero. As to A2X, we're sort of constantly reviewing different options available in terms of e-commerce integrations, and we'll occasionally delve outside of A2X where needed. But whenever it's a marketplace or platform that we need to pull e-commerce data for that does integrate with A2X, then that would be the default option.
Mm-hmm.
And then Briefcase is the application that we use to capture and process purchase invoices and to push through to Zero. So that's been a fairly recent change. We were recommending Apron until earlier this year,
Yeah.
but we've seen a lot of benefit in switching over to Briefcase in terms of the AI functionality that it has.
Okay, great. So the main things that you're looking for within your app stacks is, I guess, functionality and integrations then.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay. All right. What about you, Josh? When you're, I guess, choosing apps that you are comfortable recommending to clients and that you want to form part of their app stack, is there anything else that you would look for in these apps before they essentially become the chosen ones besides functionality and integrations? Do you think there's anything else important to review?
Yeah, I think you see a lot of apps these days that come from likes of Australia and New Zealand. So having localized support is a big one. So yeah, if we implement an app into an organization, we want to be able to kind of confirm that if they don't come to us for support, that there is a localized support team and they're not waiting kind of 12 plus hours for an answer to a quick question. Especially when it comes to time constrained tasks like payroll and stuff like that. You need to be quite quick when it comes to support. User feedback as well. So obviously the Zero App Store has a kind of review section, which is great. So it's, you kind of take a mixture from the Zero App Store, from G2, from AppVentory Plus, from peers and from your network as well. A system that works really well for Oliver might not work for Emily's situation. So it's all about kind of getting a wide array of user feedback and kind of determining, is this the right tool for this customer? And a lot of it always will come back to the business itself and their processes and their people. You could have the best app in the world in a business, but if their processes are a mess and their people don't want to learn a new app or don't understand why they're learning a new app, then it's never going to work. So there's kind of it's not as simple, unfortunately, as Googling, project management tool that implements with Zero. I'll install that. We're all good. You have to kind of peel back the layers and figure out where this app is going to work and which one.
Yeah, definitely. I think, yeah, there is there's almost like two levels to reviewing and choosing kind of your app stack as an advisor, because you want to make sure top level, yes, it has the functionality and the integrations, but then when you start getting to the client conversation, you get into kind of all the more specifics, yeah, like the support and I guess how it's going to actually work regarding their own processes and workflows. Emily, is there anything else that you look for in a good piece of software before you add it to a chosen app stack?
So we kind of created this template of whenever we kind of like review an app. So obviously we use AppVentory Plus. So thanks for shouting that out, Josh. But it's really important for us to know the limitations as well. So we look at the features, benefits, limitations. So understanding what the app can't actually do. Because usually, obviously, when you get an app off the shelf, it does 80% of the the needs of the business, but that 20% it doesn't tend to do. So it's really important to understand where you may need to have like a workaround that would fit the client's needs if that was the case. But it's also could be like a be all and end all to, is this app actually worth it? Is it a really big deal breaker for the client and for other clients as well? So yeah, we also look at the limitations of them.
Awesome. Cool. I think we covered a lot there in terms of the functionality it has, and I guess and the limitations. The integration certainly is functionality as well, and it's not just does it have an integration with Zero, it's how does that integration work? Is it one way? Is it two way? Is it creating new information in the other system, or is it just simply updating information? Yeah, support is great. User feedback. I also like to, because I'm a really detail-oriented person, get into the nitty-gritty of the product development. So asking the question if there is an available product roadmap, just to ensure that, if you're going to spend the time getting to know and understand this app for your clients, that it's not being discontinued in 6 months, or they're not going to halt investment, that they have got plans to continually improve that product. And another thing that I also like to look for is the security and compliance aspects of the product. And most app vendors do have in kind of the footer of their web pages access to their kind of privacy policies and things like that. So you can see kind of how that data is processed and what data is held and where it's held, as well as, I know, dependent on the client, they might have restrictions on where the data can or can't be held. So I think that's another good thing to take a look at when choosing kind of your preferred apps that you're recommending to clients. Oliver, you mentioned that you recently swapped from Apron to Briefcase for purchase uploading. Is that right?
Yes, that's right.
How did that come about? How are you keeping on top of that app stack and keeping on top of new things coming out that may or may not be better than what you already have as your kind of preference?
That was primarily driven by the team, actually, in that they were providing regular feedback on Apron, and there were some concerns raised there. So we looked to see how we can address those concerns by making a swap there.
Okay, so the feedback was from staff or from clients?
Yeah, a mixture, actually. Yeah.
Yeah, okay. So yeah, important, I guess, to listen to that staff feedback as well. And it's also good to, where you can, and this is where it's good to have these kind of preferred app stacks rather than trying to stay on top of the whole market, is keep on top of those product updates, because sometimes, although most of the time these new features and updates are very positive, sometimes it can actually change and make things a little bit less favorable for some of the clients that are already using it. So yeah, that's a really good point. Um, so Oliver, you mentioned that you are providing kind of implementation services, and you said you've got a pricing matrix around A2X. So part of the webinar is, of course, how we're choosing AppStacks. But
Yeah.
in terms of how your AppStacks help you bring revenue into the business, can you talk me through this kind of pricing matrix and kind of how you're getting business from that?
So in terms of the pricing matrix, it's essentially us asking questions that would help us to understand the level of work involved in that implementation work. So, for example, for an A2X implementation, we'd be asking things like, do you want to be able to track sales geographically? Do you want to be able to track by product category or by marketplace? Obviously, the more level of analysis you're going into, that impacts on the level of time involved in implementing A2X, and then that would feed back into the pricing matrix.
Nice. Okay. Is that in Excel, is it?
No, we actually use Go Proposal at the minute for that.
Calculates it all for you, does it? When you
Yeah.
put those. Oh, interesting. I didn't know it did that. And do you use that kind of pricing matrix for any other kind of implementations or kind of tech related services?
So yeah, we've got quite an extensive pricing matrix
Oh, have
within
you?
Go Proposal. I think if you were to go through the entire thing, there would be several hundred different questions that we could potentially ask the client, depending on
Right.
what services they needed to come up with quite
Mhm.
precise pricing.
Okay. And how do you think having Go Proposal and its, I guess its price and matrix functionality make you maybe more profitable than if you were quoting manually or you using something like Excel or you were creating your proposals in Word? Do you think that that helps you kind of get more value out of these types of projects?
Yeah, I think it makes it a little bit easier to say this is the price, this is what it is. I'm not saying this is the price, the system's saying this is the price. So I think prospects tend to question that a little less if
Yeah.
that's sort of laid out in front of them. As we'd always sort of do it on a Zoom with a screen share so they can see how that pricing's been arrived at. They're happy with all the factors that have been input to um, arrive at that pricing. So it's very
Mhm.
transparent, but then it also means that the team are very aware as to the pricing of those different services. So it's easier for team members to price as well.
Yeah. Okay. And then as a firm, I guess with those types of projects where it is difficult to, I guess, estimate exactly how much time it's going to take, are you then tracking kind of your profitability against that price that came out of the matrix and kind of able to see that you're getting a good profit from that?
Yeah, exactly. So we track the hours spent on that project, so we can always revisit the pricing matrix and tweak it for the future if need be. Um,
Hmm.
but yeah, we've got good insight from the hours
Oh,
tracking to be able to see how profitable jobs are.
awesome. Awesome. Well, thank you for sharing that. That's really helpful. I need to go have a look at Go Proposal a little bit more, I think. Josh, I want to talk to you because you work with lots of different apps, and I know that you've got experience across a few different industries, such as construction, for example. Um, with Hyphen Digital, do you have kind of set defined apps? I know that you said that you work with essentially anything that integrates with Zero. But do you have any defined app stacks, or how are you kind of finding a way to make profit off of using apps?
Yeah, we have kind of a few kind of apps that we know work really well together for specific kind of sub industries. So if you take construction, for example, you'll have like larger term construction where something like Simpro might come into play, or you've got kind of that field services, so your trades, people going out and they need that mobile optimized app. So you can start to look at the likes of Fergus, ServiceMate. So we kind of have a good understanding of we can almost by doing some discovery with the client, we know where they fit into which app stack. You'll also have apps within those that will just work kind of agnostically, like Chaser, for example. Everyone will require at some point to chase an invoice. It's especially rampant in construction because getting paid is so hard. So that will work kind of across the board for both field services and for kind of larger scale construction. Same kind of principle that we find when it comes to reporting as well. At the end of the day, cash flow in construction is king. And not a lot of construction business owners kind of have their finger on the pulse when it comes to that. So solutions like Float for your typical cash flow forecasting, or if you want more in-depth reports, you've obviously got SIFT being rolled out onto Zero accounts, which is awesome, or Fathom as well. Again, work across the board. So I think it's almost worth having, if you like Oliver, for example, if you know your industry really, really well, you can almost start to build out almost sub AppStacks. So you could have one for fast moving consumer goods. You could have one that's more kind of inventory focused. And yeah, a lot of it is just exposure to those different businesses and to those different challenges as well. And as Emily pointed out, you'll have businesses come to you that pretty much are in the same sub industry or do the same thing, where you can roll that AppStack out really nicely. And you've already got all of that experience from previous implementations. So as much as we like to say it's a copy and paste job, it's certainly a copy and paste and then tweak job for sure.
For sure. Cool. And when you're kind of pricing these types of projects up, where you say that it's almost like you've got a core app stack that is a one size fits all, and then you've got all these extra apps around it, which if you meet X, Y, Z needs or requirements, and therefore will require maybe a little bit more research and maybe a bit more customization and implementation because it's a bit more, I guess, unique and customized to the client. Do you have different ways of pricing, those apps that are one size fits all that perhaps you know really well and how to implement it and how long it's going to take, and you can do it in a short space of time? Do you find that you're, quoting a fixed fee for certain apps and implementations or advisory services, and in others working on a more kind of project, maybe time basis? What works for you?
Yeah, so so we use Ignition for pricing and proposals. So when it comes to advisory, we have two kind of main core services. There's a mini AppStack match, which is kind of if someone comes to us with a good idea of what they want, we can kind of be that critical friend to say, yeah, we think this is going to work. These are the reasons why. Or these are the free apps that you should look at. So that's one price. And then we have a full app match, which is where we go away. We do the homework in looking into which apps are going to work and why they're going to work. And you'd get a kind of full report of the apps that we've evaluated and which ones are recommendation. So we do that based on platform categories. So, project management could be one. You could be looking at reporting as well. So that would be kind of a second advisory project. When it comes to implementation, it's kind of how long is a piece of string. A company turning over 500K is going to have different needs and requirements to one that's turning over 5 million. So you can kind of do your best to price for it, but it's always a case of having one price and then factoring in that overages as well, on-site time, training time afterwards. So we kind of break it down into, here's your cost for a full implementation plus 30-day support. And then after that, here is a monthly recurring fee for ongoing support. At the end of the day, we're the ones who put the system in. We know your business. It might be more beneficial for you to come back to us for support as opposed to going directly to the vendor who's dealing with 300 other tickets at the exact same time.
Of course. And those two advisory packages that you offer, are those on a fixed fee regardless of requirements, or do
Yes.
Okay, nice. And then the implementation is what you try and do your best to kind of estimate based on time.
Yes, yeah, pretty much.
Okay, cool. And around tech, I suppose, do you provide any or offer any other services relating to apps other than advice and implementation and the support that you mentioned?
We can do some kind of not very basic, but some like process mapping. So again, it all kind of lumps back to you could have the best app, but if your process is RMS, it's not going to work. So we can help them understand kind of where the processes are, where they're necessarily falling down, or more importantly, what's the true cost of the process. So if someone in accounts is, spending 6 hours a week doing this, what's the billable rate that they could actually be generating revenue for the company if we automate that task? Because we're kind of so new to the market, we can be quite agile and be quite flexible with our offering. So if a prospect came to us with a specific challenge, then yeah, we'd be able to kind of take that head on. And yeah, I'm quite lucky. I have a very tech savvy business partner as well, which is always something to fall back on.
Yeah, yeah. Awesome. Thanks for sharing that. Um, Emily, I'd love to move on to you. I know you've been in the tech advisory space for years now. Not to make you feel old. I think I can say that because I think we're around the same age. So I would love to hear more, yeah, about the services that you provide around tech and if they're even formalized, because I know in a lot of firms it's very reactive, hourly based billing for tech advice. Have you created any structured kind of services around apps for your clients, and what does that look like in terms of the offering and how you price it?
Yeah, so we have different pricing, I suppose, coming back to similar to like what Josh was saying, where you are going through the processes, mapping out like a gap analysis report. There's kind of like three different sections to that service and delivery. But we would kind of like use like a range of, we guesstimate it would take, say, between 6 and 8 hours, therefore the price is between this and this. And then at least then we're like, if it's going to be above that range, then obviously we'd have to let them know the reasons why it's taken so long. But yeah, in terms of that, don't get me wrong, it's been obviously a bit of trial and error, like most things where, you don't know how long things are going to take, especially when you're talking through with the teams of what they are doing around processes. So some things we've learned to actually just do it on an hourly basis. We have a day rate as well, where we'll go out and see the client in person, and then just to understand, I suppose, what they're trying to achieve. So yeah, we do have bespoke pieces of tech or app advisory too, being obviously part of App Advisory Plus. We do get a lot of clients that kind of come in and say, we're using this software, can you help us? We're really trying to achieve this and get this out of it. And then we say, okay, well, we can come and have a look, but we do charge on a day rate, say £1,000 plus that a day. So yeah, it is. We're kind of similar to Josh. Obviously, we work with different sized clients. We work with people that are turning over 500k, but it goes up to like 15 million. We work with groups as well, which obviously makes it a bit more complex. And trying to, I suppose, intertwine everything. So yeah, we do bespoke the fees, but again, same as Josh, we use Ignition for our pricing and our proposals too, which makes it a bit easier to then price, and the team obviously know how to price that.
Right. Okay. And you're kind of tracking your time against what you price to see if you're kind of hitting your budget and if you need that extra bit of time.
Yeah, so for our practice management tool, we use Carbon. So we all record our time, and then if it's anything project related, then we put in project like as a description, and then we put our time to that. So it's a lot easier to see where we are going under or over budget to obviously help us with our pricing moving forward. I suppose where we do work with like a massive range of clients, and typically we prefer clients that are on Xero as well. So if they do come to us and they say they're on different accounting software, then we do let them know, the team prefer working on Xero. We don't really like working on anything else because, it's not that nice to use. So yeah, if they want to move over, then we know how much it is going to be to migrate. We've obviously got the cost from Move My Books as well if they want additional years, or like their invoices and receipts being pulled over into Xero. So all of those things are pretty set in stone now. It's more just the timing around implementation and the processes really.
Yeah, of course. I think I've heard, over the last, well, probably even 10 years at this point from when I started at Xero, there have been quieter as of recent times, but conversations and people preaching, you should be charging for your value, you shouldn't be charging for your time. And look, I was only in an accounting firm for a couple of years, so it probably didn't grind at me as much as it has grinded at other people working in firms having to do things like timesheets. But I do wonder if there is a time and a place for value-based pricing and a time and a place for time-based pricing, because when I was a consultant in a firm, I found that those scenarios like Xero implementations, as you said, you know how long it's going to take, and therefore what you can charge your clients. But you only know how long it's going to take because you've done it so many times that you've got really good at it, right? It's like when a plumber comes around and they fix something and they charge you £100 for 2 minutes at a time, because you're not paying for the time, you're paying for their years of experience and them getting it done in a really short space of time for you. Do you think that the kind of the same applies in what you do? Do you think that you're able to make, a really nice margin on those types of projects because you're able to get them done in a short space of time? Or do you find that you are still just charging kind of based on that exact time that it's taking you?
So definitely more profitable. Obviously, the more that we've done them, we've become quicker. The first time we did it, when we were building like a template, especially for delivering like the gap analysis to present to the client, took some time and tweaking and getting that all perfect as you want to. But now you've got like that basis. It's just a case of kind of copying and pasting, making sure everything looks as what you spoke with the client about. So yeah, definitely get more profitable, and we wouldn't necessarily change our pricing just because it makes us quicker. It is on value as well, because we've taken the time to learn it. Obviously we've done the qualifications and everything like that. So yeah, it's somewhat time-based but also value. Like yeah, I wouldn't necessarily change the fee just because of the time is taken less.
Yeah.
I would still charge the same.
Yeah, still fixed fee, but you're making it is value based, and I guess it's those implementations that can be a little bit more difficult to do that with, particularly the more kind of operational systems anyway. I think the finance systems it can, a lot of those are quite easy to rinse and repeat. Oliver, could you just cover off? I know we've spoken about you kind of your A2X implementations and how you are pricing those. Are there any other ways in which you're making money with apps? Any other services that you are providing? Like I know Josh, for example, is doing support packages. Emily and Josh are doing implementations and kind of an advisory kind of fact-finding piece in that. Is there anything else you do with technology that brings revenue for your firm?
I think it's sort of more the follow on from the implementation, and generally that would then lead to ongoing support, and more often than not, a full accounting service alongside that. It's amazing how often you get to sort of the training stage of the implementation and people go, hang on, actually, this is way more complicated than we realized it was going to be. Can you just do it all for us? And then at that point, you've been impressed with the implementation and the training, and they're happy for you to move forward with that additional service.
That's interesting. So you're upselling your accounting services from your tech opportunities, which is
Yes, I think that would be more often that happens than not as well.
really okay. Because I know a lot of firms I speak with, they are trying to upsell the tech services to their accounting bookkeeping, whatever financial services clients that they have, which can be a little bit of a struggle if you don't have that rapport. So the way it works for you is probably a bit of a green flag that perhaps firms providing the advisory service does need to plug a little bit more, I guess, money into the advertising of that service, because that might be a good way to kind of get stickier clients, perhaps.
Yeah, but I think that sort of feeds into the benefit of having a defined app stack, in that then you've got stronger relationships with those specific apps, and then the implementation work for those specific apps is more likely to come your way from the inquiries that those apps get, rather than necessarily relying on your own marketing to bring in leads.
Ah, right. Okay. So would you say the majority of your work then is coming from the software vendors themselves?
The majority of our app implementation work, yes, definitely.
Wow. Okay. Is that the same for you, Josh, and what you do?
For kind of specific markets, yeah. So like we have a project management tool where if someone in the kind of the UK is looking to be implemented, then yeah, we'll get leads passed to us as well.
Okay. And so what's the trick to kind of getting those vendor relationships? Is it finding vendors that provide the product and don't have an implementation service?
Yeah, it's a great question. I think just letting them know that you're there and that this is the service that you provide, and kind of start to develop a rapport with the senior leadership team as well. That always helps. But yeah, I guess having a specific niche as well is kind of a brilliant, almost marketing ploy. If you can specialize in one aspect. So my background is project management tools, so I could probably implement them in my sleep, unfortunately. So to go to this app, say, oh, I've implemented people to you in the past, I've implemented people for you. This is what I'm doing now. Can we have a conversation? And a lot of the time, they're more than happy to have a talk, because at the end of the day, you're providing value to their customers. So it will make them more sticky if they get a good implementation, and it will make them happier with the platform as well. So it almost turns into a no lose, no lose.
Yeah, like you scratch my back, I'll scratch yours.
Exactly.
Nice. I love that. Cool. Okay. Well, I am all out of questions. So, I believe I have a Q&A box activated on the bottom of the screen. So if any of the attendees have any questions to ask these guys while you're here, while they're here, please feel free to pop them through now. Um, and whilst I'm just waiting to see if anything comes through, do you guys have anything else to share? Anything that you'd like to talk about that I haven't covered around how you kind of choose your apps and how you kind of making your money from them? I haven't missed anything with my questioning.
No, I think you smashed it, really.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
Okay.
can't think of anything that hasn't been covered. I'd probably just echo what Oliver was saying there about getting the team's buy-in, and making sure that they are happy with the apps that they're using as well, because there's nothing like using a app and being really frustrated that it's not doing what you need it to do.
Right. Was this your staff's buy-in, or you mean the team at the client?
Both really, because I suppose we have a really good relationship with directors, but also where they have a finance team as well, and obviously where we're working with them more in order to get the numbers for the management accounts, they obviously need to buy into the products too, to make sure that it's working for them. Like Dext is a common one, everybody knows Dext, but where we're asking them to put invoices in and they say, oh, I've already sent that, and I'm like, can you send it to me and I'll send it? And it works. I'm like, there's something not quite right here. So then it's just working with Dex to understand what the problem is to help get that buy-in.
Right.
People don't really like change. Where I put one client recently onto Dex, they used to manually type it in. I'm like, this is saving you so much time. Why don't you like Dex? So yeah, so it's just working through with them and getting their buy-in too.
Yeah, so it's almost like change management, I suppose, and trying to understand who the blockers might be within the team, maybe the people that are a bit more resistant to tech, or perhaps who created the current processes and therefore a little bit protective of them, no matter how manual they are. And
Yeah.
yeah, kind of making sure that everyone is kind of educated as part of that implementation as well. Cool. Do have one question. Do you have teams specific for these types of implementations, or do you have lots of people who can deliver implementations in part at a lower level to help scale? Or are you a small enough practice that it's not even a consideration? Do you want to take that, Emily?
Yeah, we've got, to be fair, we do have quite a few people that could do it, but typically where the team's capacity is kind of built up around doing the day-to-day work for the clients, it would usually be myself or the other director, Frankie, who would do like the onboarding or doing the system overhaul. But I have taken colleagues with me so they can obviously increase their understanding and knowledge. And if they do have space in their capacity and they want to take it on, then they can do that.
Awesome. So do you have any staff that you would, I know this word is a bit overused in the tech community and I almost don't want to say it, but that would, champion a specific app, that kind of is almost like the owner of this is our Dext guru, this is our Zero guru, and they're kind of in charge of those implementations and maybe even educating people on updates and things like that?
Yeah, so we encourage all of our teams. So when there's like an update in Dext or in Zero, then we always encourage them to liaise with their clients and pick up the phone and talk through the changes, especially if it impacts them and can help benefit them for whatever reason. So we would always encourage our team to specifically pick up the phone. So they obviously hold that relationship rather than myself or another director do that. Because obviously it's not really viable for us to do that anyway.
Yeah, of course. And is that something that you would typically charge for, picking up the phone and kind of keeping them updated? Is that kind of a service that you would almost sell, or that's just kind of part of your
No,
customer success, I suppose?
yeah, it's more about like the value add and going a bit above and beyond rather than doing the same thing day in, day out, not really having much communication apart from asking them for an invoice. Because then also if there are like any additional features that they want to add on to their subscription, then that's also like a way in to kind of tag on and get more money from it anyway.
Yeah, that makes sense. Cool. Awesome. Well, thanks for sharing. That was our one and only question. So I can let you all go now, but thank you so much for partaking in my webinar. You guys have been really interesting to listen to and hear your different viewpoints. I really appreciate your time. And thank you to everyone else that joined. I have another question. No, I don't. It's Bryony from Unleashed saying great session, everyone. Thanks, Bryony, and thanks, Emily, Oliver, and Josh. And yeah, have a great afternoon.